Hello and welcome to the Lalit Modi and Sushmita Sen show.
Oh my God. That is a
I had to
great
do this.
cue to get people to press like pause, exit, escape, and move on to their next podcast because no
Uh,
one is here to
uh,
listen to us talk about Mr. Modi getting bonus at his ripe old age.
but speaking of Lalit Modi, I don't know if you noticed, and I think it's a good point to start this show off with, is that while the initial teaser marketing campaign of however you put it up, and then he said, "Okay,
Teaser
sorry, I forgot."
marketing campaign.
Then he later then put up an additional tweet to that tweet where he said that, "No, sorry, we're not getting married. I'm just clarifying." And Sushma Sen very like gracefully as always puts up a post saying, "Guys, I'm chill, not married, whatever. Well, just like living my life," which I think was perfect. Right? She kind of kept it there. Then
Hmm.
obviously the news couldn't handle it. Mr. Arnab Goswami supposedly had, and I don't watch that channel. Supposedly went like deep into the whole Lalit Modi, Sushmita Sen thing and spoke about how. So you know that he was supposedly his ex-wife was supposedly his mom's best friend. This is whole story that's been around for a long time. And so he Arnab said something, and so this guy goes on a rant today on when we're recording this on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram about how Arnab's a monkey, and he went into saying how much money BCCI had before he kind of came in, how much it is now. So basically saying that guys, I know who are making fun of me. This is what I am. Like basically, like
Varun,
he
I just
brought the
want to
boner out.
let you know that I am not paying any attention to this story and I have like checked out a long time ago, which
I'm just
explains the
getting that off my
radio
chest.
silence at my end.
I am just getting that off my chest before we get into the actual show. Hey guys, welcome to Think Fast. That was not the show. This is now the show. The brief interlude was some other show wanting to talk about Lalit Modi and Sushmita Sen. But Suchita, what has been going on this week beyond Lalit Gate?
Oh my God. I don't know, man. Like, Sushmita Sen can do so much better, but you do you, girl. You do you. Arya season
Yeah,
3 is coming out. In any case, getting to actually
apparently season 2.
consequential things so that I can pay attention and not digress to multiple other things happening today. So,
Yes.
couple of quick pieces in
Oh,
news,
once
man.
before I move that, like one last thing
Oh
on Lalit
no.
Gate. My favorite tweet on that whole photos he put up. This is one photo where he's lying down and she's trying to kiss. She's I think going to kiss him. Someone says that my friend just told me, sister just told me, doesn't that look like she's kissing her grandmother? And you go back to that photograph and you can never look at that photo the same way again. I have lost my mind relooking at that image, imagining Lalit Modi to be Shivnita Sen's grandmother. I will now
Okay,
let
guys,
this
let me
story
just
go.
bring this back to Planet Think Fast. Let them be,
Fine,
यार
fine.
मजे कर रहे हैं करने दो. Like, what is your
करने दो अच्छी
problem?
बात अच्छी बात. I have no
Yeah,
problem.
yes, very good, very good. Embrace all. That's the spirit. Now, getting
That's
back, focus, guys. Lightspeed has raised $500 million for startups in India and Southeast Asia, which is great news given all of startup in India ecosystem investing generally has been at an all-time low and has been moving
hmm.
very, very slowly. Um, Microsoft has laid off 1,800 people. That's about 1% of its total staff. Google sent out this memo which was widely shared on the internet about how they are slowing down all of their hirings and how scarcity brings clarity, in Sundar Pichai's words. Ev Williams has quit as a Medium CEO. This was a long time coming, man.
Interesting,
This
right?
this
Yeah.
guy just can't catch a break. Like he's tried everything under the
But
sun.
think about it. He started Blogger, which is the OG like platform for blogging, and then co-founder of Twitter. And obviously, the Twitter founding
Hmm.
story talks about whose idea it was. That's like content. It's most contented story amongst many of the startups. And then goes on to start Medium, but even Medium had issues, right? He went the ad supported platform model, realized it wasn't really giving the best content, wasn't going up there, took off advertising, made it subscription based. But I feel at some point, this whole like he's always said that he wants to find a way to make long form writing or any form of writing really monetizable and have growth.
Yeah.
I guess in some ways he's kind of feeling like he hasn't been able to figure that out, and he's moving on to the next one.
Also, like, I mean, one small thing, yeah, I feel like it's the first, there is literally no first mover advantage, especially when it comes to content, is what I have
Yeah,
generally
I agree.
seen. Right? Facebook was not the first of its kind, neither was Instagram. And I think, all the things that Medium got wrong, Substack has kind of got right, where they've built out these, category first creator communities.
Yeah,
They've built also very ground up. So yeah, I can, I'm sure you and I can talk about Medium,
yeah,
what went right, what went wrong, for time immemorial. But basically, that was one piece of news. The most active VC investors in Q2 of 2021 are pumping the brakes, which we can all see. There is, however, a 104th unicorn, which is one card, which has raised about $100 million from Temasek and has hit the unicorn club. Airtel is apparently in talks to acquire Gaana. Mr.
let me just make a call out.
Ashish
Can we
Mishra's
guys,
tweet. Oh my God.
sorry, disclaimer to Mr. no, actually not disclaimer. This is almost like a public service announcement. Ashish Mishra, you don't have to be so angry with platforms. We love you. We love what you guys do. But thoda matlab, but chill karo thoda. You don't have to be so angry about all of this and have opinions. But hopefully, don't troll us. We are your supporters. We use your content, but be a little nice, no? I'm going to let that one be.
Yeah, with that heartfelt message, let's move on to Clubhouse has raised around $310 million, which is interesting, right?
How?
Because so many,
How? Who's
dude,
on
I mean,
Clubhouse?
I'll give you one. People said this about Twitter also. Who's on Twitter? Like, no one uses it anymore. Like, companies find a way
But
of
there's actually nobody on Clubhouse. I
rejuvenate,
went recently. I went
and no
like a
one was
month
there.
ago.
Huh.
There was only like there were a few groups talking Bollywood, which were driven by I think Miss Malini and her team, and the others were just like random, like what do you call what's the term young people use for like hooking up on Clubhouse? I forget the term. Since
I
I'm no
don't
longer young,
know.
there's a term there.
Okay,
Are you up?
whatever
I don't think
it may
that's what
be.
it is.
Oh
Something
my
like that.
God. In any case, no, so
Yeah.
so I mean, irrespective of where Clubhouse may or may not end up spending this money, the truth is they've figured out something within the audio space which frankly no one else was able to crack, right? Twitter
Yeah.
tried, I don't know how well Twitter voices, spaces, how well it's doing, not doing. Spotify also came up with Green Room, this, that, and the other. But long story short, I do think audio is a interesting space to build a business in, and maybe what Clubhouse does now, it sort of recalibrates its business, gets a sense of what they did right or wrong, and fixes things with this money.
Who's going to acquire
I
them?
think, sorry.
Who's going to acquire them is my question, because it's a feature. LinkedIn already has their audio product, which they call audio events. Twitter has Space, which is doing well. Who acquires features? I wonder. This is a third platform we are not talking about here. This
What
is
is
a
a
very
third
meta
platform?
question here. Meta
Oh,
perspective I have here.
Oh, what a hint! What a hint! Only if you could be more subtle. In any case, let's quickly run through the remaining quick talking points. Ex Uber exec Amit Jain has launched a new Web3 venture. Sula Vineyards is filing for IPO. Wow!
Oh, finally.
And yes, finally. And the former CEO of KKR in India, Sanjay Nair's Tech, has raised a $100 million fund called Sorin, which is super
Yeah.
interesting. And I know we guys are going to talk about this later, but he's raised it from a lot of family offices, and HNI quote unquote wealth. So yeah, that's a quick roundup of stuff that has nothing to do with Lalit Modi and Sushmita Sen, but has a
Can
lot
we
to
also
do with
talk about that
ThinkFast.
lovely LinkedIn post that came up about performance marketing? I think it's
Oh
important
my
we
God.
address it. I mean, I think it's important to talk about,
I
primarily
agree.
because
I agree.
the how do I put this right? How do I put this in the most delicate way possible? There was this LinkedIn post about how Unacademy decreased their performance marketing spends, and it had no effect on revenue, by the Unacademy founder and CEO. And in many ways, I think the responses kind of pulled that down. It just didn't make sense as to why would you talk about it, because in when you actually dig down deeper, that's you kind of putting yourself in a negative light.
Yeah.
And one is to kind of, because the last time he did one of these things, it was actually a very smart thing to have done when he spoke about why they shut down a certain revenue stream, etc. But this time it just felt like one of those things which he thought might sound smart, and
Yeah.
might sound like this is a very smart initiative they've taken, but in a sense, it didn't really play off that way.
Yeah, I mean, think it's just one of those where, you don't have to participate in all
Mm,
conversations, and you don't have to speak about all of your data
I agree.
so openly. But I want to end, our introductory segment with
Mm.
obviously this one quick thing that came up in the Economic Times, which is Blinkit is apparently to integrate with Zomato Hyperpure in fresh pivot. Blinkit is shutting down warehouses
I'm
again, this
forgetting how
time
many
to
pivots they've
integrate.
had so far.
Quite a few, man. Quite a few.
रीनेमिंग हो गया,
But
पिवट हो गया, सब कुछ हो गया.
what's your take on this piece of news?
I
Expected?
mean, I'm going to think about Blinkit, and the fact is that if you look at the other players in this space, right? Even like someone like a Zomato, not Zomato, even someone like a Dunzo, for instance, who kind of moved into this space of like, just like reducing the amount of time to delivery, have done a great job. Like I know that I use a lot of Dunzo. I know you use a lot of Zepto,
Zepto, yeah.
and I feel that both have really cracked this 15-20 minute at max kind of delivery, if not even lesser, sometimes like 12 minutes, right?
Hmm.
But I don't know why Blinkit has been going around into this kind of figure it out, and now it's going into another pivot. So in many ways, it seems to be something everybody else is figuring out, and but they are unable to. So something is happening which we need to figure out what's happening at Blinkit, which can be corrected. I didn't know if that sentence made any sense, but I said it
You are
anyway.
so articulate, Varun. You really are being Shakespeare today with beating around the bush and not getting to the point. But I don't know, man. I think I'm going to stand by what I've said from day one, which is what they're doing with respect to Zomato is a feature. It's not a product.
I
Dunzo
agree.
having its own product and brand makes sense because they're kind of like the front end for Reliance's quote unquote back end, right?
Hmm.
Zepto obviously has raised money off of the back of its own standalone products and were kind of the first movers in this quick commerce space. I mean, I think Dunzo was a OG and then Zepto sort of, came along. But Zomato's acquisition of Blinkit, I don't know, has to be a feature, not a product. That's my 2 cents, but let's see how things pan out for them. What are we talking about today, sir?
We're talking about Ultrahuman and the whole glucose monitor piece. I actually tried it out for a week, so I have like personal experience perspective on this as well. You dig into family offices and how what role they kind of playing in this whole funding space and how everybody else kind of tapping into that. Mokobara and travel and their recent round that they raised and what's happening in that. I'm sure that you have more perspective on the travel side of things.
Hmm.
And what is the last one? It's the whole piece happening around Wish, and it's really bizarre Ponzi scheme. How can we not talk about Ponzi scheme? We love Ponzi schemes on this show. So we're going to dig into
Ponzi's
all of
are the
that and a few other
best.
things. Uh,
Yes.
dig into that and a little bit more right after this break, where Jalasmi will tell us, guys, can you just be a little less?
Hello, hello, hello. It's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus Meghnad, Shreyas, and Abbas discuss Vijay Mallya getting sentenced to jail for 4 months and fined 2,000 rupees for contempt of court. On Ikka Dukka Economy, Abhinav explains how the fiscal credentials of the government work. On Smarter with Sid, Siddharth explains the difference and importance of time in the market versus timing in the market. The Wire Talks host Siddharth Bhatia talks to history professor and secretary of JNU, Professor R. Mahalakshmi. The duo decode the ongoing Kali movie poster controversy. And on Marathi Khirki Tanda Deshmukhs recite Marathi writer Purushottam Shivram Rege's poem Anpahat Hota. Before I leave, I just want to remind you all that we have some amazing merchandise for you guys. Please go to our website, click on the shop tab, and check out the collection of t-shirts. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any other platforms you're listening to us. And remember, you can also check us out on YouTube. We're also doing a small listener survey which helps us understand who you all are, our listeners. And we'd really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Boat Lifestyle, Small Case, Capgemini, and Intel vPro. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Welcome back to Think Fast. Are you an ultra human cyborg, Suchita? Are you? Have you considered it?
Nope.
Do you want to figure out
You
your blood
know,
glucose?
I think step number one is like just getting me to exercise again. Let's start with that, and then let's get into
Oh, I'm very
glucose
good at this.
monitor exercise again.
Yes, I have helped many people get into the habit of working out on a more regular basis. Maybe this is like what we should do on this show, that it will Think Fast Boot Camp, where we shall have workouts and recordings. But
Must. You
before
are
I
really
digress and
desperate
more
for more
silence
content
happens,
for your Instagram.
yes, I'm planning to go topless on my 40th. So I'm preparing for that.
Oh
Um,
my God.
I will have topless oil
You are a
photograph
Lalit
on my.
Modi in the making, by the way. I'm telling you. Like, आपके साथ जो होने वाला है ना, when you're however old he is, 100. I can't wait to see this, car crashing. But in any case,
But
so
yes. So we're
tell us
talking
about
about
Ultrahuman,
Ultrahuman, right?
man.
So I don't know if you've been following Ultrahuman's journey in terms of how they so they started off as a fitness app that had a bunch of workouts, etc. The good part is they've always been a very like global focused company in terms of like even
Hmm.
from the people they had initially, because I've seen the app kind of change over the years. Even people who are training and etc. They got people who were not just like Indian trainers. They got a nice mixture of people in. They launched the Cyborg program a while back, which is basically a blood glucose monitor that goes onto your skin and it has a patch on top. It's something which many companies are doing across the globe. There's one in the US which is really pumping up, their push into this space as well. We recently saw Shreyas Iyer, the Indian cricketer, wear it during the IPL as well. It's a small thing which has a K on it, which you can see on the upper tricep in general is where people put it. The good part with this data is that it's really helped a lot of people who have any diabetic issues, because when your blood glucose spikes, it's obviously something which they need to kind of monitor. So for them it's great, right? When it's kind of going up there, you get a notification saying, okay, this is the way for you to level it up. But this is Cyborg is meant to be more for a general public scene as well, where it's kind of helping you track, okay, how often are you eating, what foods affect your blood glucose in certain ways. There's a whole science into metabolism, how this affects your metabolism, right? So in the long term, how can this kind of affect your health is something. It's very early days of trying to figure it out. And so I tried for a week. I found it a little more intrusive than I would normally like, because
In
there's
what
this
way?
tiny. So the sensor is not made by Ultrahuman. It's made by a medical
Abbott.
one of the Abbott is who makes it. So it just goes in. There's a slight prick into your skin, so it's not necessarily
Hmm.
something you feel. It's not supposed to be more than like say an ant prick in that sense, but um, you usually feel it on your skin, and there's a patch on top of it. You take a bath with it, you sleep with it. So for me, I mean, the first day I had a few, I felt a little uneasy with it, so I switched it to a new sensor, and then I was fine. But after a
Yeah.
week, I ran through the data, and it's interesting, right? It helps you kind of see what makes your blood glucose spike. And there's this whole conversation online, because I've seen a lot of people kind of have alcohol with it and see how much the blood glucose spikes when you drink tequila versus drinking beer, and people have done stuff like that, right? Oh, I can eat
Yeah.
biryani and it doesn't spike for
It's a
me.
good
Uh,
conversation starter.
yeah, but in the long term, unless you're someone who's super hardcore into really figuring out your diet and really mapping out that blood glucose, or you medically
Hmm.
need it, it's not a mass product. It's not like something everybody will wear, unless it's, let's say, your insurance company tomorrow says you have to wear it.
Yeah.
Most people won't wear. And they've just launched their new wearable, which is more, mass general audience, in the sense it's a ring. Unlike your
Hmm.
smartwatches, rings actually have become quite popular. The Aura ring is very popular in the
Yeah.
States, hasn't come to India yet. And so that's happening there. They obviously are trying to figure a way to go wider and build more revenue in there. This space also getting a little. There's a lot of competition kind of coming in as well, because you have on one end. Let me look at who all have kind of gotten into this space. I'm just looking at the article. But before that, first thoughts.
First thoughts on your long spiel. Let
See, I get so much
I
information. Let's be honest. Have I ever done this much research?
Yeah,
Ever?
and it's also because you're reading out of a document, bhai.
No, no, but
Have I
no,
ever
no,
done
no.
so
Most
much
of the stuff I've
research?
said is not from a document. I have actually put it. Anything goes onto my body, I do research on it.
Called you out, called you out. No, but I appreciate you testing and trying this as a lead up to this recording. Shows how committed you are to think
Yes.
fast. But couple of things. While you were talking, I was trying to think through what the use cases are, right? And I remember when these guys had just launched, at least on the tech community Twitter piece, there was this general enthusiasm about being a cyborg and ultra-human and how you can hack your systems and, data drives everything. It's a very like engineering way of problem solving. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it was the product was targeted towards, basically VCs, product managers, engineers, and founders. At least that's what its genesis seem to have been. So I think I have a lot of, I don't know, man, I have a lot of questions about, first and foremost, what is their positioning to the latter part of what you said, right? Who is it meant for? Is it meant
Yeah,
for an enthu cutlet who likes looking at hordes and hordes of data to decide what is good for them or what is not good for them? The second thing is, if you look at their pricing, it's built on subscription, if I'm not mistaken, where you have like
yeah,
a
it is.
3 month free trial period. I
You get
think
a
a
you
question.
can get a 1 week trial. You can do a 3 month thing. There's a longer one as well. And anybody who already had a cyborg got a discounted rate when they launched the ring for pre-order as well.
Hmm.
So yeah, so they've been doing a bunch of stuff, kind of building community around this as well. Because the community managers are super helpful. Right? They kind of write in, they keep checking on, okay, how's things going.
Yeah.
They'll send you a chat message and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think my one pushback on that particular piece will be, apart from how large is the TAM is, I wonder what their repeat rates are, right? So for example, someone who
Yeah,
may instinctively, or because their friend was wearing a patch, they may have bought it. Like I wonder what the longevity of this is,
I
because
agree.
I'm assuming like I'm my assumption over here would be that people's diets are pretty standard. So for example, even if you're having a cheat meal once a week, you will know what your glucose levels look like when you have a cheat meal, right? So why do I have to have this patch on for the rest of my whole entire life, and why should I keep paying you subscription for a lifestyle which is pretty much regimented? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like
Yeah, yeah,
people's lives change on a weekly basis, right? um
yeah,
or their eating habits change on a weekly basis, or the food that they consume dramatically changes. You know what your monthly rituals, so to speak, seem like. So I think the second question that I'd have is, how often is a person going to actually resubscribe to what your
mm,
product has to offer? And I think the larger question in this space is, wearables has generally been a very, very, very tricky space to build anything
yeah,
in, because over time everything that's a product becomes a feature, right? You saw that with, I remember there's this whole rage of pedometers and counting your
mm,
steps,
yeah,
and suddenly you have every single smartwatch now having that, every single phone has that as a feature.
yeah,
So I don't know, but the inner, I, I would love to be optimistic about the founders, because the founders
mm,
are second time founders. They, I think they founded Runner earlier. They have common investors to us. But I think the inner skeptic in me is screaming out louder than the optimist, which is, wearables is a tough space. Where are these subscribers going to come from? And how many people actually look at data religiously in order to make their decisions? And the numbers are there, right? Apparently they have 14,000 members. Bro,
mm,
like 14,000 logo say, I mean, what,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Like what is
Yeah.
game changing over here?
And I think the if you look at what, even like for instance, even if there's a company in the US called Levels from the note we can see. There's Sugar Fit, which is Cult Fit's version of this. Healthify Me obviously is the biggest competitor in that sense. Um, there's this entire conversation about blood sugar, right? That how most of us don't kind of look at how many people become diabetic over time, and those
Hmm.
numbers are large. I feel that for people who have any form of a diabetic condition, for them to kind of still be fit, this is a great tool to have. So I would say, if I was them, at a
But
two
that should
level
be
strategy,
front
which I,
and center of their messaging, no? Like, you
they're
don't see
not
that in
calling
their
it that,
messaging.
but I feel that the wearable took me. I mean, the wearable which they just launched will be the more mass market one. But if you have a specific
Hmm.
use case, you're going to use this. This might be
Hmm.
just to, I mean, it has helped a lot for their brand image, though. People kind of know about Ultrahuman because of the cyborg program more than the app, because there were apps around, right? Like, I mean, Cultfit, all these guys had these apps for a while. But Ultrahuman became prominent because of this. And again, they did the whole Apple thing, right? You get subscription on the app for free when you buy the cyborg and stuff like that. But I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's a very tiny space, but I think if they layer it right, there are people who can become constant repeat customers, especially people who have genuine concerns with being able to control how they eat and need broader help with that.
Yeah.
Because you can just kind of see some of the trends and take a call. Like I like for me, every time I had a smoothie, it would spike up because my smoothie has like a banana in it and has like oat milk and a bunch of other stuff, which I know will spike it up. But it's
Hmm.
the whole point. But if you study this stuff enough, you kind of know how to regulate it without needing the sensor.
Yeah.
So I feel it's for a consumer who's like, when I'm not going to spend time in doing the research, this thing's going to be on my arm, and I want to kind of lose weight in a healthier way while working out. This might make sense, but I think the biggest problem is the fact that it actually goes onto your skin. It gives you that tiny prick,
Prick.
and I
Yeah.
feel that's really where a consumer kind of like 50% people will, if not more, will say, "I don't want a needle in me."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
where people will turn away. I would say the wearable is going to be their larger play because there aren't too many rings out there in the Indian market. There are too many smartwatches, and it
Yeah.
looks really cool. So the product looks really nice. So hopefully that will be the scaled general one for them.
Okay, enough about Ultrahuman. Let us switch
Yeah.
gears to family offices.
Does your family have an
So,
office? Sorry, bad joke. Had to say it. Had to say it. Too easy.
my God, guys, I can't do this. I can't do this on a Monday evening. Okay, focus. So basically, the reason why I was very excited about this story is because traditionally the sources of capital for a lot of startups have been your typical VCs, or then you've got, your disaggregated angels who will cut you small checks, and you have to run after small amounts of money to stitch around together. Or your other pool obviously is like PEs and the likes, which only come in once you've got a significant amount of revenue
Hmm.
running your company in your establishment, right? There is a very interesting new, it's not really new, but there's a very interesting like new ish to consumers and to entrepreneurs pool of capital that has now become readily available, which is family offices. And family offices, range from the likes of, say, for example, Titan Capital,
Hmm.
which predominantly has the money of the two Snapdeal co-founders. However, it's run very professionally, right? So Titan Capital will have, a managing partner or whoever whose job will be to solicit deals, invest in companies, sit on their boards. On the other end of the spectrum, you have more quote unquote like looser family offices. And the reason why I use the word loose is there may not be concrete structures around these family offices, but they do actively invest, right? So an example in that case would be, say, for instance, the Thapar family office, or for instance, the Thapar family office was one, and then the Harsh Mariwala's
That's my
family
yeah.
office, which started off in an unorganized way, and then obviously has organized itself over the past couple of years, and now it sits under a fund that in fact just invested some amount of money in Smitten. So
Hmm.
I think the really interesting thing happening over here is the LP to a VC is now empowering themselves. Obviously, if they have enough money, they're empowering themselves with the right experts around their capital, and are actually going quote unquote direct to entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Through slightly more organized systems of family offices. Obviously this has become massive in the US. I know not the best example to give, but Theranos, for
Hmm.
instance, raised a lot of money from Henry Kissinger's family office.
Hmm. Hmm.
So you've had obviously stuff like that, which is gone kaput, and that begs the question of why you need professionals to run family offices or to manage family wealth. But in my opinion, a really interesting new pool of money being created, which I think is going to catch a lot of steam in India, especially with more and more founders getting exits, CXOs of companies making money in IPOs, and looking to dabble with some of that money, through more serious forms of investing. So, your first thoughts on this?
It makes sense, right? In many ways, I feel that as the investment environment also has matured now. I mean, if you look at it, even like how angel investors looking at this year things this year versus last year. Last year, everybody was an angel investor, right? Everybody was kind of
Hmm.
investing left, right, and center of whatever they got on WhatsApp. But even now, I think people are looking at structure things right, and I think especially family offices, because a lot of it is also generational wealth in many cases. I mean, some of these cases are when okay, founders have had a great exit, they have money, Let's kind of put that into a family office. And they would have this understanding because of their own life journey, or other professional journey in this sense. But I think for like even like old school family offices, they're doing this a lot more now. From a few people I've spoken to, primarily because it's gone through generations, and I think the younger folk have seen how VCs are organized. It makes their life easier, where they don't have to kind of go through this entire cycle. I know some angel investors who are getting into this. Will literally hire a
Hmm.
couple of people, who will run through, or run through every single deck, look at the numbers, almost if not maybe not sitting on the board, but it get someone in kind of come in and really look at it from a slightly better sense than how maybe in the past these decisions were taken. But I'd say the only worry here is that there is a reason why venture capital has the kind of weight that it has, is because it's not just the fact that you're doing your diligence and running through it. It's also the experience of multiple people who are part of that organization. I don't think this will ever match up to that, but it might take away some of the money coming into VCs, and in
So
many
let's
times
run
spread
through
it
the
out.
pros and cons, right? What do you think are the
Hmm.
pros of raising money from a family office versus, like 30 angel investors or some giant heard of or unheard of fund?
I mean, I think this is more individual in that sense. All VCs will be a lot more into the business to understand what's going on. I don't think all family offices are going to go as deep, but I think the more you professionalize it, I'm guessing they're going to go in as deep as the VCs do. So I don't think that will change, but I think the family office will still be a lot easier to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And on the other front,
100%.
what I feel will also make it in, I mean, I think the maybe not even I don't think I have pros and cons. I literally have like perspectives. Is that I feel in many ways the family office money would actually end up going to a VC and then to an entrepreneur. Um, Many of these family offices also eventually lead to a crop of people becoming entrepreneurs, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that the understanding of the market will become far deeper for a lot more business to come out from those family offices that are owned by that family. It's
Hmm.
something which I think might happen in the future, because if you look at a lot of the companies which have come up as startups in the recent couple of years, a lot of them have come from generations of family businesses that have led to someone starting, let's say, a D2C company, or someone starting a manufacturing business that is branded in a certain way. So I feel this could also have a ripple effect there, where why would you raise from, let's say, a VC when you have your own family office, and so you literally pitching to family as well, apart from pitching to a VC. So I think that might also become an interesting space to watch.
Yeah, I think one big pro of this space is it's generally much more patient capital. So
Hmm.
typically, what at least I've seen both in India as well as through reading about how this happens in the US is the fund cycles last for, there's no fund cycle, right? Like, for example, a traditional VC has a fund cycle of 5 to 7 years. And every 5 to 7 years, they have to raise fresh funds and then deploy those funds and then show IRR on those funds, right? I think because family offices are literally running on a family's money, there is no your competition is basically, if I had to put that money into the markets, can your deployment help me beat the return on my investment that I would get by
Hmm.
just deploying that money into the markets, right? And remember, it's not like family offices are betting all of a family's wealth on their more venture related investments and venture related arms. They're also betting a fraction of what their overall wealth will be. So, for example, hypothetically speaking, if Varun had a family office,
Hmm.
and if he's putting 100 crores into businesses, which is a decent amount of money, man, that's like
Yeah.
enough. That's like a good 10 to 12 series A checks, right?
Yeah.
Pre-series A check, sorry. Now, Varun's family office deploying 100 crores basically means chances are they have like 1,000 crores in total, and a fraction of that is being put into more risky assets, which is another name for startups these days. So I think that's one big pro. I think the con, however, is there's this, I go with again. There's this popular notion that money has no color, and I think somewhere that has to be dispelled from the ecosystem at large, because a great VC can do you wonders, but
Agree.
a not so great VC can screw up a lot of things for you along the way. Like, and let me not even say VC. Let me just generally say investors in
Investor.
businesses. And there have been so many horrible cases of like angel investors really harassing founders at later stages. There have been other cases where VCs, and obviously not to take anyone's side, but we've seen more than enough examples of founders being kicked out of their own businesses in
Yeah.
very like public and humiliating ways, right?
Mm.
But my point over here is that having a great VC route for you goes a very long way, and not just in terms of like the emotional you do you kind of like part of it, but also signaling to the market, right? So for example, today if Sequoia, Axel, or Lightspeed, if any of these three guys write you a check, you are assured of your round getting filled up and or
Mm.
subscribed,
I agree.
right? If tomorrow things aren't going as per plan, you need to quickly exit your business. If you've got these 3 to 4 high quality VCs on your cap table, your capability of even selling your business very quickly, or selling your business in ways that aren't detrimental to value creation, all of those become easier because these guys play such a big role in building and to some extent even manipulating the ecosystem, right? So
Mm.
I think the point that I want to make over here is, please do not believe that you can take money from anyone and it doesn't matter. There are a lot of painful investors out there, who can make your lives miserable, and can genuinely be a big deterrent in business planning, raising more funds, selling your business, this, that, and the other. So money does have color, and I think obviously things will take time. But what would be interesting to see is how many of these family offices are actually able to build brand equity around themselves, to the extent where tomorrow, hypothetically speaking, Varun's family office, if you write a check into my company, it actually makes a Sequoia, Axel, or Lightspeed want to invest
Yeah.
in my business too. So I think there has to be that breakout family office that does this. I'm hoping
Mm.
Titan Capital in India, creates like a bit of a path. The same company, the same fund that I mentioned earlier. But let's see what happens here, man. I find this space fascinating, but I'm going to stop with the story now.
Yes. You just be careful. Whoever you choose, your choice between become Hum Aapke Hai Kaun, no, become Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum, or you could become Bhoot Bangla. So you can decide which side you will go with your choice. Family
Bhoot
office, yeah,
Bangla
or
is not a
VC.
movie, bro.
It is a movie.
When did this
Kuni
movie
Mahal,
called Bhoot
Bhoot
Bangla come
Bangla.
out?
Ramsey movies all sounded like that only. Anyway, I can go deep into that genre of cinema naming. But before that, we will go for a break. So in the break, I can tell Suchita about Kuni Dayan in Kuni Bangla. There are many of those. Welcome back to Think Fast, where Suchita now knows every Ramsey movie's name by heart. Don't you not?
Hasn't this been a great value add to my general existence?
Speaking of value add, are you a Mokobara consumer? I keep asking you, are you a consumer of everything we're talking about? Why are you a Mokobara consumer? Because I'm not.
Yeah, your like intros have become very repetitive. Speaking of, are you a consumer? Come on, Varun, work on it, work on it. Okay, am I a
क्या आपने
Mokobara
Mokobara
consumer? No.
खरीदा दोबारा?
I'm gonna just pretend that didn't happen. But no, I'm not. However, I have been eyeing their
Same.
travel accessories for a while. Unfortunately, I
I'm also very
really
targeted.
like
How often are you targeted with their ads? Because you go to you look at their ads and enjoy just what shop. What do you call it? Is it called window
passively
shopping? If you look at it
browsing.
on social, yeah, I do that all the
Yes,
time. I go to
correct.
Mokobara, check out their stuff, and then never buy it.
It's pretty looking stuff, and obviously, they had
Very
a lot
nice.
of traction around them because of what's it called, Away. So
Hmm.
back in the day when Away was, this like glorious $1 billion brand, Mokobara caught a lot of that, ripple effect.
Yeah.
But they're in the news because
They raised a $6.5 million round in their Series A, led by
Congos,
Sama
bhaiyo,
Capital and Sauce
Congos.
VC. I like Sauce VC's name. It
Mm,
sounds very cool. Sauce. But anyway, I'm in a mood there today. I don't know what's happening. But anyway, they
you
have a bunch
really
of
are.
investors on, a lot of individual investors as well. But what are your thoughts about this space? Because you have a lot of like established players. You have American Tourister, your Safari, VIP, etc. There's also like Wildcraft on the other end. But is this a space? I mean, are they tapping into this right? Considering what's happened with Away.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think if I were them, I would be not limiting myself to only India. That's what my play would be.
I agree.
Because for example, like Tumi is genuinely doing very well, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Away, had they not raised so much money at such exorbitant valuations, would have been a pretty interesting, D2C ish focus bet, for example.
Yeah.
So I think my 2 cents on this would be, it would be interesting to see them branch out of just rich Indians as their customers, because let's be honest, that is their customer. Their bags aren't cheaply
They're
priced.
not cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, and this whole like travel for leisure space
Mm.
is still very small in India. That concept of weekend getaways or whatever else, it isn't as large in India as those of us sitting on our Instagram bubbles think it is. So that
Mm.
would be my TLDR on this space. What about you, brother? What about you?
So I feel the I think you're bang on about them going the to me route, right? Because they're not just doing suitcases and bags. They're actually getting like, so they have a new bag which I've been eyeing, which is the daily work bag. They also have like one overnighter bag, which in case you're kind of traveling for like one night. Um, so the product looks really premium, looks really great. I feel for a lot of these brands, and interesting enough, I was listening to this other podcast where um,
You
Anant
listen to other
Narayan
podcasts? Oh
Anant
my
Narayan,
God, Varun.
the head of
Mensa
Mensa,
guy.
he was
Yeah.
talking about how for a lot of brands which have like a specific kind of use case which can easily go global, that's something they should really look at. I think Mokobara, it makes total sense. I mean, literally can tap into that market, and they really need to figure out that part of the game, because I think that's where they can see true success. What I feel is also going to be interesting is to kind of really figure out um, what is the mix, like how are you kind of putting yourself out there, because there's one end which is the suitcases market, which I think is very different from your daily carry market. But the good, and they now have a wallet as well which they've launched, which is not the only product of theirs I don't like is the wallet, because it doesn't look that great, according to me at least. And so I feel at some point they're going to figure out how this strategy works for them. But I mean, they're one of the best looking brands I have seen in a while in this space. And just from like, I think by far.
Yeah, but I like hate to be Debbie Downer here, but best looking doesn't go a long way.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
know.
look at Napa Dori, right? Like literally the best looking
So good.
brand that has come out of India, and
I'm
very,
a
very good
hardcore Napa
products.
Dore consumer, but yes.
Same, same, same. And obviously you've seen them also target. The London as a city. They've launched. Where else did they launch recently? Dubai. They've launched a store over there, and their
Yeah.
focus has been retail. I think Mokobara. I don't know if they have an offline store or not, but their
I
focus till
haven't
now
seen
has.
one. I think that's important. You're right.
Yeah. So, again, unfortunately, if you're only targeting an Indian customer and you're trying to build scale through that, that also in a category that is not a high repeat category, because
Mm.
especially if you look at luggages, the whole promise of American Tourister is that you don't have to buy one for 10 years, or
Yeah.
VIP or any of these other guys. So is it a big space? Yes, but VIP, American Tourister and the likes have build this market by being heavily focused on retail, by being heavily focused even on affordability,
Mm.
and hence having such phenomenal distribution where even if a customer isn't buying from you, sorry, even if a customer is only buying from you once every 5 to 6 to 7 odd years, you still have the capacity of building it into a very strong business. One last thing on this at my end, and then I'll stop talking about Mokobara, is I don't think they should launch into too many adjacent categories up until they don't find the right
I
distribution
agree.
strategy for the current category that they're in. Because I feel a lot of D2C brands do this, where they'll have like kind of like the Ultrahuman story we guys were just talking about, right? You find moderate, not even success, but moderate enthusiasm around one product. You're not able to build PMF around it, and then you suddenly start launching six others, hoping that those six others help close the loop,
Mm.
or build the funnel. I hope they don't make that mistake. Bas khatam mera
But
spiel.
and figure a way to get it duty free,
Hmm.
literally, in airports, because most times I've seen people buy suitcases in airports a lot more than you would think about, because people break suitcases in airports and they buy it over there. To me, is I would say largely bought in airports. So think of a way to get into airports, and I mean that could actually be one of the great best ways to kind of go global. and kind of scale from there. But again, that's my 2 cents. I don't know how you get into airports, but I'm just saying get into airports.
Great
What is the
advice.
next
And
story?
with that, last topic for
That
the
was my wish for them.
day.
My wish is to see Mokobara next to me. Uh, it's
Look
a
at you
it's a
attempting innovative segues.
Moko to me.
Attending.
Moko to me.
Great. Aren't you chuffed with yourself?
Very, very. I'm very excited. What do you wish for in this next story?
Acha, guys, let's just get straight to the point with the final story for today, which is basically for those of you who missed this, Wish is, I don't know what the tense is at this point in time, but a super popular, like instant commerce, quote unquote. Not
This
instant commerce, sorry, impulse commerce app, right? So Wish was basically like, you know what Misho would be for you or me, Varun? Like Wish
mm,
was that for an American customer, and Wish's whole
yeah.
proposition was that traditional e-commerce companies like Amazon, etc., etc., only cater to the East Coast and the West Coast, and the
Mm,
middle belt, the Bible Belt, has been long forgotten, and the Bible Belt,
mm,
requires like cheap products and a differentiated way of selling to consumers, blah blah bullshit bullshit. But basically they build this whole narrative around how current e-commerce is broken, because e-commerce today caters only to quote unquote premium slash expensive-ish products, and there is a space to be made for cheaper, more affordable, more massier goods. And if you went through the experience of Wish, it was very like impulse, right? Like you'd see this cutesy product for like $2 and instantly want to purchase it. And there was a lot of like random rubbish being sold on Wish. Like it was literally everything from like a tweezer to like like a cheap pair of glasses to random rubbish for your kitchen. Like just think of dumb impulsive things that you buy
yeah.
on your way out of a store, like the thing next to the
Yeah. I
cash
always buy mint
cashier.
for some reason. I have too much mint because I just buy the mint whenever I'm leaving. It's a problem.
That's a great insight. But long story short, so, Wish created this whole hype around its company. They IPO'd, had GGV as an investor. And there was this recent article that came out in the New York Times, where apparently there was some crazy Ponzi scheme happening at Wish. Their CEO was kicked out, left, whatever the hell happened over there. And there's a new CEO, this Indian chap who's come in, and he's kind of left to clean up the mess. So let's start with your 2 cents, man.
Yeah.
Impulse commerce, and
I
uh,
mean,
and 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 does quality matter, or where do things stack up?
so I don't think quality. I'd say quality matters in all cases, but I feel for a lot of purchases, people don't look at quality as much as you would. I mean, if you even go deep
Hmm.
down the rabbit hole of like Amazon reviews on even like the basic products you buy, you will always see like people have such varied perspectives. People have got the wrong thing. Like today, I was looking for something and it said, "Okay, you said this was metal in the images, but what I got was plastic." Right? It's literally like stuff like that going even further. Like this broke within one day, or
Hmm.
my child destroyed this even though you said this is child proof,
Yeah.
stuff like that, but that's more on the child, I guess. But I think the interesting part about this is if you don't build in the right kind of guardrails into what products come onto your platforms, often enough this kind of stuff happens. But I feel this
Hmm.
Ponzi scheme is a whole different thing. Like what is someone called deal best deal 9, was
Yeah.
kind of like they were literally putting up stuff and not sending it to people. If I read that right,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
um,
That's correct. So, ladies and
$1
gents,
plastic tongue clamps. Who buys tongue clamps? Leather face
apparently
diapers for cats. Okay, for cats. I'm like leather face
people
diapers. I'm like,
apparently people on the internet. But basically, guys, like if you read this NY Times article, it literally has this part of what was happening on Wish, where customers would place orders for cheap products, and those products would never ever ever get delivered to customers. And the assumption at whoever was running this program at Wish, their assumption was that because $1 का खरीदा है किसे याद रखेगा, and
hmm.
who's going to remember this like purchase, this random stupid purchase that they made,
I have a
um
point here. People who are
which
buying
is
$2 handful of worms, that person deserves to not get it
they
because
deserve
those.
it.
How are worms going to like travel? Like first of all, poor things. Yeah, मर जाएंगे रास्ते में. You deserve not to get your worms. Whoever you are who buying $2 handful of worms. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, but let me sort of draw a comparison, and not to say it's literally the same, but Misho kind of has the
Yeah.
same proposition, right? Which is like
Correct.
impulse purchases, things that you don't, mind if they even get ruined, like very like Sarojini Nagar type purchases, right? It doesn't
Mm.
matter if it like tears in three washes.
Yeah.
Do you think those businesses will last? Like, do you think there's a space for this?
So I feel there'll be some brands who will still have value. And I think in this case, it's also sometimes very like unique stuff as well as, there's this guy who's got a channel called Unnecessary Inventions, right? And he
Hmm.
comes up with the most bizarre things and he started to sell them and people were buying them. And most of them are like, he has like a pipe which is like a cooler for, your privates in when you if it connects to the air conditioner kind of goes in there or like basically stuff which doesn't have should not be a thing. It's something
Yeah.
he makes, but again I think it's a quality that's for fun, right? But if it's an actual product you want to use, and if that breaks then you're not going to go back. So I feel in most cases unless there is a verified buy kind of a badge, maybe it's not going to really be something you should buy. But
Hmm.
people are still buying it, and I feel that people don't understand that verified thing. Even if I'm not sure if Wish has that, but I think that's the best way for a platform to say you're coming on my platform. At least you should be able to deliver to my consumer. If they have an issue with your purchase, then there's something for us as a platform to figure out, right? I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just taking this out of Amazon's playbook. You get something wrong, like I recently ordered something and I got the wrong order. I was supposed to get like ordering some plant protein, and I only got like the sample serving instead of getting the full box. And I wrote
Hmm.
back to Amazon, but the fact is that maybe the consumer is not even doing that. Because like, is it worth it for $1? Is what Wish thought, but you shouldn't think that people don't care about even a dollar. And I feel that's really where the problem lies: is the fact that you got to treat even a dollar versus like $1,000 in the same way. And that's when you kind of build customer loyalty as a brand or even as a platform.
Yeah, and unfortunately, category just plays such an important role over here. I have to give credit to Snapdeal for credit where it's due, especially for Snapdeal, where
Yeah,
Snapdeal kind of
I agree.
morphed itself into Vishal Megamart. You know what I mean? And
Mm,
Vishal
mm,
Megamart is crushing it as a business, as our DMart and the likes, because they've understood, just because consumers want something for cheap doesn't mean they want it cheap.
yeah,
There's a difference in between the two, and value commerce as a segment is something that I think there's a big opportunity for,
I
especially
agree.
in the context of a country like India, or even for this like Bible Belt in the US, or whatever one calls it.
Mm,
But getting into this territory of sasta tikau commerce is always a slippery slope, because at some point the customer is just going to be like, you know I
yeah.
could literally accumulate all of that money and spend it somewhere else. But that's on the Wish and Impulse Commerce story.
Yes, and now we are producer Jalasmi is wishing for a break, so we'll take a break and be right back with our recommendations for this week. And we are back. We're closing this off because Suchita has to go for a meeting. But what are your recommendations?
What is my recommendation actually for this week? While I think about it, आप बताओ.
I actually saw this really cool documentary called Halftime on Jennifer Lopez on
Yeah.
Netflix. Really nice because
Varun yaar,
I
what a
think
loser. I recommended this a while ago.
you did. I
Copycat,
just saw it
killer
finally.
rat, Sunday,
मैं अभी
Monday,
देखा
eat a
मैं कल
rat.
देखा मैंने कल ही देखा
हाँ,
ठीक है
मेरी
fine you recommended
recommendation सुन के.
but you recommended it and I watched it but it's just
Oh
subliminally
my
there okay.
God. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck are married. Did you see? They
Yes, they
had
got married
a
in
Las
Vegas.
Vegas. Yes.
Very sweet. Like he put up this video about how like he's like literally in like a
He's in a
random like
bathroom.
bathroom saying this is my changing room and stuff like that. Super cute. But okay, let me
Yeah.
recommend something which you have not recommended in the recent past. Um, I am actually recommending everybody to try out. I'm coming up with something while you're talking about, but have some curd rice. Curd rice with pickle is the best thing you can eat in this world. Sometimes you can add some chili chicken to that curd rice. Chili
Oh
chicken
my
curd rice, best
God.
thing to drink in a late night. That's my recommendation. Give it a shot. Chili chicken curd rice, everybody. The best thing you can ever eat.
Great, guys. And while that does wonders for your glucose monitor, my recommendation will actually be this very good book which I read a while ago called How Brands Grow. It's by Byron Sharp. And it's actually a book that I'd encourage all marketers to read, because um, I think it dispels a lot of the digital, myths as far as marketing is concerned. But without giving too many spoilers or sounding, piecemeal about this, I'd highly recommend, if you're interested in all things marketing, you're working on performance marketing, especially, read this book called How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp.
And Jalasmi has seconded my point of view on chili chicken and curd rice. She's a supporter of this movement we shall make going ahead. And for some reason, my watch is telling me some timer is done. I have no idea what's cooking. Maybe it's chili chicken. I don't know. The show is over, so we'll say toodles.
Bye, guys. That was a great ending, Varun. You must be very proud of your skills today.
Yes, see,
Your
Wonder Woman also
non-stop
says bye.
jokes.
See, Wonder Woman's here to say
Oh my
bye.
God. There you go. Fondling inanimate
Though
objects
she
again.
can fly by like this. See, the Wonder Woman's flying by like this.
Great.
Bye, guys.
Bye. See you
Bye,
later.
guys.
Bye.